Give him a minute to
Yeah.
click us up.
No, here we go.
We are.
Okay, Littleton Finance Committee meeting July 1st, 2014. Our agenda, as posted, is reserve fund transfer request from the town clerk for the recent special election. And then we have board reorganization and finance director's report in minutes if we have anyone. I didn't see any recently. No. And knowing that that Marilyn wasn't going to be here, would you mind, Peter, being
Don't you have her set up to do it from recording? Didn't you set that up so she would watch it on TV and do the notes from that?
We can. That is definitely an option. She tested it at her house.
Okay.
She's able to take minutes from the meeting if you prefer, rather than having somebody be your scribe.
That's up to you, whichever.
probably a good idea to have a backup, just to,
Okay.
you know,
Yep.
record any major votes or that
Okay.
sort of thing, but,
I'll put her on the list.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so the first item then, which we were all emailed on, and is not a surprise, and actually it's the only reserve fund transfer request at year's end, Bonnie?
For right now, what I've done is given you a briefing on the reserve fund,
Right.
the history, and some requests that will be coming at your next meeting. Just wrapping them up.
Right. But specific to this one, the request is from the town clerk, Department of Elections. A request is hereby made for the transfer of funds for the following emergency or unforeseen contingency. Additional local election expenses for the June 28th election. The amount requested is $3,300. The account is cited, and it is submitted by Town Clerk Diane Crory. With some backup data there for the specific items, ballots, memory cards, election warden, etc. Anything else you want to add to that?
Nope,
Madam
it
Clerk?
actually cost us a little bit less than what a normal election does because it was such a small ballot, and so the memory cards didn't cost quite as much, nor did the printing. So we probably saved about $900, $1,000, right around there. But other than that, it's just the usual, we have to have an election warden, we have to have people there, and we have to feed them because they're all volunteers, so we have to give them something for coming and giving their time to us. So it's basic cost that happens every election, and we all know the reason for it, so that's why I'm here, because we didn't figure on it last year, so.
Just curious, the number of absentee ballots, was it more or less, or whatever?
Actually, it's more than our
Regular.
annual election. We had 165 absentee votes this time.
So-
In May, we had about 65, 70, right around there.
So that's about 10% of the vote? Is it, what, 1,600 votes?
1,155.
11, okay, so that's 12 or 13%, yeah. Okay.
So you have the postage and all that, which pretty minimal, but
I'll move that we.
Well, just see if there's any other questions. Any other questions around?
Questions, or,
Okay, Brett?
yeah, I'll move that we accept the, or approve the $3,300 request by, to fund the special election.
Second to move.
Okay, then the motion's made and seconded to approve the reserve fund transfer request for the additional local election expenses for the June 28th election, the amount of $3,300 to account number 100-162. Any further discussion?
We've even got account numbers listed on this?
Yeah. I think we're supposed to be technical on that, this one, right? All right. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'm going to circulate this for signatures. All right. And while we're doing that, board reorganization, we have three offices traditionally, chair, vice chair, and clerk. And defer to the board, whatever order you want to take them in. We can put that up for discussion, however you want to handle it, is fine. I'll just chair until that's resolved, anyway.
Okay.
Well, I think what's best for me is to step back, so I don't want to even be chair or vice chair. I'd like to just kind of step back. I think that's what's best for the town right now, so I don't want to be considered as a candidate for chairman. So however we go about electing who becomes chair, I feel as though it's best for me in the town, for myself, just to step back from what I'm currently as vice chair and just to become back to just a member or whatever, so it's best.
Okay.
Yep.
Board members, for the record, I've served past 2 years. One was filling in when Al Rasmus resigned earlier, and then the past year myself, so.
Yep.
our-
Our traditional methods here are 2 years as the chair, and then we elect a new chair. The old chair becomes the vice chair.
As a mentor, yep.
And then the subsequent election, the subsequent year, we elect a vice chair who comes in and learns from the old chair. That served us well. I think we should continue that.
Okay. With that, I recommend that nominate Betsy, who I think is the next in line, as chair, and certainly Paul as chair going to vice chair
Okay.
would be my recommendation or motion or however.
Okay, I think it's
would
probably
like-
appropriate to keep motions one at a time, but for the record, I think.
Okay, well, then I'll make a motion that Betsy be nominated as chair.
Second?
Okay, discussion?
I'd like to have just a point of consideration on this, is this came up, pretty quickly, how we were looking at this. I wouldn't have, it's appropriate to retain Paul as a chair for a year, and then reconsider that, who would fill in as, as vice chair, and, to replace him.
Well,
Give it
yeah.
a little bit of more of a delay.
Okay. Well, my feeling on it is I think that we've worked really hard over the years to have this be an apolitical board. And I think being chair for more than 2 years, really, I question even the 2 years, but
Right.
that's what we decided to do years ago. And I just think that having more than 2 cycles as a chair is just not a good way to go. So we can talk about it, we can discuss it, but my nomination of Betsy stands.
Okay.
Nobody has to make any other comment.
Steve, any I'd say?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity of knowing Betsy very well. I do know Paul fairly well. And I know Alan, and I understand what you're saying. I respect that. So I'm kind of torn. I think Paul would be a good choice. Nothing against Betsy, but I'd like to hear other opinions.
Well, I'll offer mine then. I wasn't planning on staying on as chair. As I said when I first got on the board, that I understand that custom, but that's also, I'm not a big fan of imposing on future people, this is the way we've done it, so this is the way it's done, approach to things. It's not bylaw, it's not statute, so we're free to nominate whoever we want for any positions. That being said, I'm not in a hurry to spend more time doing the administrative part of this. I guess I don't quite get the political angle, other than the fact that the budget, by its very nature, is politics reduced to numbers, and, elections establish people's priorities, and then they put it before the town in the form of a budget. Our role is oversight on that process, and that's good, but, and to the more specific point, I know, I think Betsy and Peter both came on the board about the same time, but of course Peter's been on the sidelines because of work reasons for a good portion of the past year or so, I certainly think that Betsy should be next in line, and I'd be happy to, support that motion. We've worked well together. We had joint assignments on a number of the departments that we covered. And I think, well, it's also not written anywhere, I do like the notion that we rarely have any contests here, so I would prefer we not have one here.
Okay.
So, we do have a motion made and seconded to nominate Betsy Bowling as chairman of the Finance Committee for the upcoming year. Any further discussion? If not, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Now you can take over from here.
Thank you, I think. With a lot of help
Congratulations.
from my friends here, I'm sure, huh? Finance Director report. Bonnie?
Well,
No, we're going to do the
What do I
other.
gotta do? Oh, I'm gonna do the other, oh,
She's
sorry.
just
Oh, I
going to
see.
run the show, the heck
I
with
just
it.
like to get back to business, huh? Heck of the politics. Okay, so nominations for vice chair. I nominate Paul. Can I do that if I'm chair or
No.
not? I can't.
you
Okay.
can't. But I nominate Paul to
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Or discussion?
sound like a
in favor?
foregone
That
conclusion to
sounds
me.
like, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Paul Glavy is be the vice chair for next year, the Finance Committee.
No.
All right, and open for nominations then for clerk for next year.
Who currently is
It's
the
always a fun
clerk?
position. Who's
Peter.
going to
Peter.
jump on that one?
Ah, Peter's the clerk.
And
I'll nominate Peter again to serve as clerk, since he didn't really get the
Yeah,
pleasure of
there you
doing
go.
it.
He snuck out on it last time.
such a heavy lifting job, too, as I recall, huh?
All right.
Especially if we have somebody to
Well,
do minutes for us. huh?
theoretically, ultimately responsible for the minutes if
Right.
they aren't otherwise taken care of by administrative staff help.
Right.
I'll second it, sure.
Discussion?
Just to make sure that if the minutes taker doesn't get the minutes here, you're in trouble.
He's going back on sequester.
You're the guy.
All right.
I think we got a good setup now.
Okay.
I think it's good now, so, less of an issue than it was before, but, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then, Peter Vilkins will then be the clerk for this next year. Thank you, Peter.
You are welcome.
Now can we go to the Finance Director's report?
We're in the middle of closing, or in the throes of it. I've got invoices this deep up in my office now. But I have to say that we are in very good shape for the end of the year. The departments, with relatively few exceptions, are managing within their budget. There's expected come back to generate, free cash for the next fiscal cycle. So things are in pleasantly good shape. So I did take a peek at the revenue, the actuals to date, and again, we're still posting a couple of straggling accounts, but we are ahead of the projections by a few $100,000 in total. A lot of it is building permit fees that have come in because of the point, and some tax title accounts that have been worked through and have been paid, so a couple $100,000 from that. So I am pleased as of right now where we seem like we're going to be landing. But I will have a more in-depth report for you on the 15th, so that you can see kind of the results of operations and what turnbacks I'm expecting and excess revenues that we've realized. But as part of the end of the year prep, I did provide you with a memo that details the status of your reserve fund as of today. And what I did is I listed the activity that you had in the past, which was minimal. You had one. The reserve fund started with $150,000, and you had one request for a transfer back in January for veterans' benefits. The caseload has just exploded this year, for lack of a better word. Typically, we spent, maybe $15,000 a year up until about 2 years ago in benefits, and last year it was about $36,000, and this year it looks like it's going to land at about $73,000. So you did approve a supplemental transfer back in January of $42,000, so your balance right now sits at $108,000 today. You did approve the $3,300 for the town clerk, so we'll account for that in there, but I did give you the detail that Diane was kind enough to provide me with. And for consideration at your meeting on July 15th, we're just making sure that we have all of the bills in place before I present you with a request. The first one would be for town council expenses, and this would include general town council, labor council, and human resource council. We're estimating that we're going to need an additional funding source of $53,912.60. The current budget is $210,000, so if that were transferred in, the total expenditures for this fiscal year would be $263,912.60. So I looked at last year to see, just as a comparison, where that fits, and it's actually a little bit below the 13 expenses, which totaled $283,514. I have asked town council to prepare a breakdown of expenditures by case and type. The Labor Council and the Human Resources Council expenses are easy to identify because they're by firm. But Tom Harrington has his by different kinds of cases, so I will have that prepped for you on the 15th, before the 15th, and I will email it out so you can take a look and see what the expenses were.
Has anybody looked at what kind of money could be saved if we just use one labor council for the town? And obviously, you'd have to get the school committee and the selectmen in bed on that to do it. But it seems to me that anytime you've got two consultants, you're going to pay more than if one consultant did twice as much work. So
It was something that was looked at a few years ago, and the reason that we didn't go with that way, because if we brought like an in-house counsel or one counsel, they might not have the breadth of experience that we're getting from the different firms. Tom is pretty good with like land use issues and general counsel.
No, I meant the labor council.
Okay, the labor.
Because the school uses one labor
Oh.
council, the selectmen use another labor council.
Yeah, that
and
hasn't-
It may be the right thing to do, but it just seems to me that anytime you have more than one consultant, you're paying more than 2x, that's all.
Yep. No, that's an excellent point. That, to my knowledge, has not been explored, but
Okay.
certainly.
I think that's long-standing, too. I don't know. I don't know that they
Again,
give it up that easily, but worth looking into, certainly.
yeah, I don't know, it just seems like the opportunity to
Yeah.
maybe save a few dollars and whatever, okay.
The next item listed is veterans benefits. And again, the current budget is $67,000. That includes the $42,000 that you transferred previously. It looks like we'll have another $6,300 in expenses to post for this month. So with that, if you approved a transfer for that amount on the 15th of July, the total expenses would be $73,316.18. And again, as a comparison, last year we spent $36,569, and it's attributed again to the increased caseload. For fiscal 15, we did increase the budget from $25,000 to $35,000, but if the caseload remains at this level, we may want to look at targeting some funding additionally in the fall town meeting.
It's not going to decrease, not for a while.
I wouldn't imagine, but.
Is it just the number of cases, or are the cases more expensive? Or, are there more benefits going out?
There are
per
more
case?
benefits going out. There are additional cases, but when you have unemployed veterans, the benefit level for those that qualify is
Goes.
much higher than you would find for a spouse of a deceased veteran who qualifies for
Okay.
some additional help, because these people generally have families, and so, as a spouse or children are added on, the benefit goes up, so.
Okay.
And it should be noted that whatever we do expend, we get 75% of that back in the following fiscal year. And we get it by way of the cherry sheet. And we did get, a significant increase from last year's caseload in this year's cherry sheet, so we do monitor it to
So
make sure.
it comes back the following year, basically?
Yeah, it's staggered, it's a year. But it's 75%, which is better than 0%.
Yeah.
Right. And on the other side of it, if you don't pay the benefits, if you don't approve the transfer and you don't pay the benefits, they will assess my cherry sheet income.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like you get to pay now, or pay me now, or pay me later. So,
That's not to say that the legislature may
exactly.
not find it in their heart to lower the amount of money that they set aside for veterans' benefits, simply because you can see what's happening here. You can imagine what's happening in the large cities like Somerville and Cambridge and Springfield, where tons of veterans that we just don't have, so.
It is a huge increase, though. I mean, it's surprising. And the last one is for the Finance Committee. And it's a very small, reserve fund transfer request, but it's about $104. Your current budget is $500 for this fiscal year. So with the transfer, it would put your budget at $603.
All right, Paul, what'd you spend it on?
Maryland.
Remember that we have an expenditure account.
Just by comparison, again, it was $908 last year, and it's attributed to the paid staff taking minutes. But what we did for this fiscal year is we adjusted the budget to $1,200 to account for that staff. I mean, it was a minimal, increase, but, so I don't anticipate that being a problem for this fiscal year. And again, that's just to give you what's on the radar. And if all of those were approved and all of those amounts, just by way of comparison, that would leave your reserve fund at $44,367, as, going back to free cash.
So we still have enough money for our end-of-year party, right?
Sure, we'll double what you spent last year.
So we started with 150,000, and after we,
Assuming that all these, go through the way.
that brings us to 44.
Correct.
Okay.
Maybe on a different subject, today I saw something come up from the state saying that if the casino bill is approved or disapproved, whichever way you look at it, there'll be about a $70 million shortfall in fees in the FY15 budget.
Mhm.
Is that being looked at? I mean, do you have any concern over that, or?
I always have concerns over
But it's just,
overstating.
I mean, that seems like a lot of money, that they'll just probably dip into the rainy day fund, but.
Yeah, typically, it seems like in previous years, when they've made cuts like that, they've landed on general municipal aid and tried to leave the education aid alone.
Right.
Our general municipal aid is, $600,000 a year.
So it's not.
Down from, the high of $1.1 million, a few years ago. So, because of the financial policies, I'm gonna point to those again, because we don't allow the full use of the undesignated fund balance, there is an amount left there to absorb any 9C cuts or anything like that. So if there are cuts, we can absorb it in that fiscal year, but we'll need to address it in the
next year,
following.
right,
Correct.
okay.
So I'm comfortable for 15, but it's going to require monitoring.
Okay.
And given your comments earlier, you don't have, there's no issue with not having a balanced budget for this year now? 'Cause we
No,
made it before.
again, the receipts are coming in very strong. I'm very pleased with the local side of the receipts, so I'm confident that we'll close that at 100,000,
Okay. And have the selectmen talked at all about when the fall town meeting will be this year, or?
There have been a few dates tossed back and forth, but it's typically the very end of October or the first week of
Okay,
November.
It'll
So
probably be later in November with the November 4th election.
Oh, with the
yeah,
election,
it's
right.
probably
okay.
the second week.
Well,
Which
we could
always
do it at
makes
the
me
same
nervous.
time, maybe you'll get a good turnout.
Yeah.
Be a little crowded in there, but.
There you go. Great,
The sooner the better. I don't like to go to the end because that pushes up against the tax rate
Right, right.
setting process.
okay.
So that's what I have for tonight.
Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Now, the 15th is actually scheduled at this point, right? Because you mentioned the 15th, I know that was one of the dates. I
That was,
think you-
yeah, originally this meeting was going to be earlier, and
Than the 15th.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
15th is the scheduled date.
And that was done in Bonnie, anticipating by that time you would have any of that end of the year stuff ready, so.
Okay,
The
The
15th is my
anticipation is up, right.
statutory deadline to get
Okay.
everything done.
okay.
And will we get a glimpse of this in-depth report ahead of time?
Yeah, I'll be emailing it. I've got it 90% done, it's just the little stragglers that, bills come in late and. so. Legally, I have to keep my books open until the 15th.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Anything else on your magic sheet there, Paul?
Well, this isn't all relevant to the finance committee, no.
Okay.
We had a clean sheet tonight.
Oh, my goodness. Starting the new year, huh?
All right, we don't have any minutes, we said, right?
How many minutes?
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
We have agenda topics, we'll get them to you in advance of the 15th.
please do. All right, thanks, everybody.
You hold these kind of meetings all the time, there'll be more people.
All right.